why would you encourage someone to live upstream?
Gosh. I don't know. I think that there's just, like, our experience, my experience is that there's not any way to do it otherwise, you know? Like, I think the times where we choose to maybe go our own way, even if it looks like it's, like, a godly way, I think anytime that we've chosen to do things our own way, we have seen the fruit of that. And it's not always fruit you want to eat.
Welcome to Upstream International TV, where we share conversations about upstream, ministry, family, and living for Jesus. In this video, you will get to hear from Sammy and Joe, the founders of Upstream, as they share their story and what it means to live on purpose.
Long time coming.
What is?
I don't know, just getting ourselves on film.
Again. It's been a while.
We've done the live thing for a long time, and now our genius son-in-law, Ben, says, let's do a survey, see what it is that the Upstream family is looking for, and they said they want to see and hear more of us.
Which is shocking, really.
So here you go, everybody. You asked
here we are.
These are going to be Sammy and I, and the vision behind this is
well,
really,
not always. Right?
No,
we're gonna have other people too.
We'll bring people in. We'll do interviews, but
like Worthy. I think it'd be great to have a Worthy and Joe video.
What about a Worthy and Gospel video, where she
That'd
just
be funny.
explains to him things.
Yeah,
like
and
the
then
meaning of life.
We'll just like translate the bottom. I think that'd be a great podcast. Personally,
we could certainly do that.
I'd watch.
We could do that. We've got a cute family.
We do.
So what is the point of getting on camera? We wanted to make sure that we didn't just make this about Haiti, right? I think Upstream for the years is just identified with Haiti, but it really is so much more than that. It's been a culmination.
Accumulation?
Accumulation.
How
do you say that word?
Culmination.
A culmination.
Culmination.
Of our lives.
Not culmination. But we do need culmination too. Culmination.
Culmination, yes. I got what
Listen, culmination.
I understood what you were saying there when you said, I know, a culmination.
Culmination. It's one word.
Culmination. How many syllables?
Just stop. A culmination.
Okay. It's been a collection of our life's experiences. I mean, anywhere from meeting, dating, parenting, marriage, life on purpose. We've always said that if you're going to live this life with its joys and its pains, that it should have purpose and meaning. Yeah. And in the experience department, we have some.
Yeah, we do. So yeah,
some on purpose.
Gonna share some of it.
Some on purpose, some on accident. But so, anyways, we're calling it Upstream TV. It can be found at Upstream International on YouTube, and Ben will put it out into the interwebs wherever else it needs to go. At some point, it might just be kind of a podcast, video cast.
Who knows what it is?
I'm excited.
We don't know what we're doing, okay, guys?
I'm excited to
You asked for more of us. We don't understand it, but we like to give. So here we are.
Cheers. So,
Ben, how cute do we look? Do we look adorable?
It won't always be this
how about,
disorganized.
I'm kind of slouchy. Do you guys like my shirt? I got it at the Goodwill for $4.
Oh, I should share a joke with them.
No.
About yesterday.
No. Okay, well, we could.
Who wants to tell the story, you or me?
I will, because you're rude. Okay.
This is funny.
You guys, I'm an idiot. If you know me, you know that I say stupid things sometimes. A lot. And a lot of times it's when meeting new people. I might come off as a very social person, but I indeed say really stupid stuff sometimes when I'm meeting people. Ask our neighbor Alexis. So yeah, I just say dumb stuff. So yesterday we're at church. It's our second time being there. We just moved to San Antonio a couple months ago, and with COVID and whatever, it's just been, things have been different. So we finally started checking out churches last weekend. So we decided to go back to this church, and I decided, I think I'll wear a dress today. And I had some dresses. Usually I don't wear dresses, but I had some because I ordered like many of them when Ayana was getting married because I didn't know what I was going to wear. So I had this green dress on, and I was like, thank you, darling.
Very beautiful dress.
Thank you. And we're walking in, and a lady says, what did she say?
She just literally was walking past you on the sidewalk and goes, oh my gosh, I love your dress.
Yes. To which a normal human being without social awkwardness would probably just say, thank you. But I'm not normal. And so many things like fly through my head in a given moment that I just didn't know what to do. So if you know me, I like to either sell or promote or whatever things that are made ethically or fair trade. Even my earrings today, these are fair trade. My shirt, I got it at Goodwill. So I didn't, it's not like fast fashion.
Babe.
Granted, we do wear some fast fashion. Hello, Adidas. But anyways.
Ask Sammy, instead of saying thank you,
I say.
The first words out of her mouth.
I think I said, I don't normally wear clothes made in a sweatshop, but this is.
Okay, let me play something.
What?
Ladies walking past on
idiot.
the sidewalk.
I'm slobbering. I'm an idiot.
We're toting all of our children. She just literally does that head turn and like, oh my gosh, I love your dress.
I mean, it's a pretty color, I will say.
Sammy spins around and says, I don't normally wear sweatshop clothes.
Why did I say that? Because the thing is if I'm being honest, I do. So I kind of lied to her too, because my favorite jeans are American Eagle jeans. I'm wearing them right now. They're probably made in a sweatshop.
Yeah.
So anyways, that I'm guessing she'll always now, they probably went home and made fun of us, just like my family made fun of me all day yesterday about it.
Or felt so deeply convicted that they burned
or
a
she
pile
probably felt
of
like
their
an
own clothes.
idiot. Or she was like, what are you talking about? But now I'm forever sweatshop lady. That's my new identity when this lady sees me.
I can't wait till you guys see each other next week.
So you guys, would
Maybe
you
next
normally
time.
think that I'm socially awkward? If you know me, you probably would say yes. But I guess I am. Yeah. And that's what I said
next
the first
time you
day.
might want to tell her that you're allergic to eggs and can't have gluten.
Babe, quit saying that. I can have gluten, I think. I can't have wheat. Does that mean I can't have gluten? I don't know.
Who knows? Okay, so that was a good
Be careful when you do that. You don't slurp too much by the microphone.
That's why Ben bought nice microphones. Oh, gross.
Okay, so.
Right. Sorry. We have to do this.
Ben, are you having fun?
It helps us get comfortable. I hope you guys are comfortable. That's what tuning into the Upstream TV will do for you.
More stories of Sammy embarrassing herself and the family.
I think there's stories to go around. We'll find some.
Yes. But usually they're me, I think.
Should I say but? Because that...
And.
It should say and or
but.
yet.
Okay.
So, what we do want to accomplish today is...
Do I buy burgers?
No, you don't. I mean...
I haven't checked.
Okay, you're good. What we want to try to accomplish, though, Sam, is what does living upstream mean? I mean, it's a name. Everything always has to have a name. I could really bore you guys all to death and share with you the way it came into passing, and maybe someday I'll do that. But literally, all it meant for me was, as Christians, we identify with a fish symbol. It came back from the very beginning of time that during persecution, in the face of persecution, how did you share with someone that you were a Christian? You sometimes would draw a symbol of a fish, or it'd be on a building to let you know that there was church there. So we kind of have this symbolic representation of our faith in a fish.
It just made me have an idea for an art thing.
Oh, well, that's good. So, in our life, particularly mine, and I know Sammy's as well because she's married to me, but definitely had to we grew through this. It was kind of an evolution of our marriage. When you're young, you have to start raising kids, and there's the pressure of providing, and then there's also this pull in our hearts versus purpose. Like, if we're all here and we're only here for a short while, what do we do with our life? And we kind of just had this no regrets mentality that we wanted to live a life on purpose. Well, what does that look like? Well, we came up with living a life upstream. And one of our slogans is only dead fish go with the flow. And it's just this idea that we can easily get sucked up into the streams of life and chase things and find ourselves arriving at places that we didn't mean to go or mean to be. And upstream for me is deep rooted in this longing to belong in the world, to be known, not by necessarily people, but to be known by the Creator, the guy that saved me, as somebody that took this life serious, that his life was worth something, and the grace and mercy that he showed on me and set me into a path of life that I could have never expected for myself was worth taking every day a little more serious than others. So that's a little bit of
not too serious.
Not too serious, no. To have fun, to have
seriously,
joy.
but not too seriously.
But to be reminded that if the greatest gift of this life is to come to know Jesus, that's its entire purpose, then every day should look like it has a little bit of that sewn into it. So we've taken that approach with each other, with our kids, with our neighbors, people that we meet. When we find ourselves overseas, we ask the question, why do you have us here, God? And what do you have for us to do?
Not even just overseas. Anywhere.
Yeah, anywhere. So that was kind of a hodgepodge thing of what Upstream means to me without going into the vision by the river that literally gave it to me. But what does living Upstream mean to you, Sam?
Oh, I feel like I would say, in a short answer, just maybe even differently than I would naturally. I think naturally we all have a pull to plan our life this way and have it look that way, and have our days numbered and our days organized and have everything be kind of what feels comfortable to us. And I think for me, living Upstream means submitting that and saying like, okay, God, what would you have me do in this moment, in this day, in this situation, in this whatever it is that you're going through, and like this constant submittance of like, okay, this is the way that I would naturally go, or that maybe the world would go, or just like the natural kind of flow of things, but like I'm going to choose to go this way instead. And I think that for me, it should like be in every aspect of our life. Do I fall short? Yes.
Oh yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah, I found myself down.
I told a lady at church yesterday I was wearing a sweatshop dress. That is...
We didn't let her live that down yesterday. I think it got brought up at least a dozen times.
It's now today, and it was
It's
just
still
brought up
coming up
on our video.
It was a good one. Yeah, even as you spoke, I can literally have flashes of so many moments in our life. I remember grabbing you. You're maybe 2 years into marriage. I'm grinding it out in a factory, working 40 hours a week, which wasn't making enough money, so you'd sign up for all the overtime in the world. Our worlds would collide at the end of the day. You had a dream and a vision for how we spent the evening. I had a dream and a vision how we'd spend the evening. And we'd find ourselves arguing and fighting, being on each other's team. But just all that time apart during the day, we could easily dream our own expectations of how our evenings would end, and we'd end up in some sort of negative route. I remember you just sat me down one time. You said, Joey, like, as long as we have Jesus and our families together, like, we don't need to work so hard for the more, right? I mean, we had all the food we needed. We had Liebach and rent-to-own furniture. We had
a lot of ramen.
Had a lot of ramen.
I don't even like ramen anymore. I can't eat it, so that works out good.
I've got a second wind of ramen in my life.
You and the kids are in gross.
But that was an Upstream moment. That was what everybody was doing. I can remember even people telling me, like, just grind it out. If you spend 30 years here at Train Company, think of the retirement plan and the raises that you'll have in the meantime.
Which is great for some people if that's what they choose.
It wasn't a right or wrong thing. It was just that conviction.
What was right or wrong for us.
What was right or wrong for us. And that was an Upstream moment. I can think of several of those. Some of them seem to have more to do with career and choosing ministry or vocational ministry over professional vocation. But nevertheless, we'll get into some of those topics. But when we think about Upstream life, that's kind of what it is, but also why. Like, how has it, like, why would you tell someone, we do men's and women's groups. We've been a part of them our whole life. We see good-hearted people that love the Lord that may be kind of stuck in the mundane of how the world would influence their life, and they just don't feel like they're getting all they can get out of this Christian life or whatever. Like, why would you encourage someone to live Upstream?
Gosh. I don't know. I think that there's just, like, my experience is that there's not any way to do it otherwise, Like, I think the times where we choose to maybe go our own way, even if it looks like it's like a godly way, I think anytime that we've chosen to do things our own way, we have seen the fruit of that. And it's not always fruit you want to eat, Yeah. So I don't know. I think submitting our life to the way that God has it planned out is going to always be best. So even if it isn't how you want it to be, even if it doesn't look how you would choose, even if it sometimes sucks, it's still the place to find the most peace and the most hope and the most joy and all of those things. So yeah, I guess that's
It's true.
Probably what I would say.
It's preached all the time, that God is not just our Lord, but he's also he's not just our Savior, but he's also our Lord. That submittance and surrender is a real step of faith, though. To literally...
Yeah, it's easy to I want a Savior, but then actual lordship, actual rule my life. I give this part of it to you, I give that part of it to you. That's really tricky, especially when things are rough, and they are rough sometimes.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's hard to say, okay, yeah, I'll do it your way, when sometimes we just plain out want to do it our way, Yeah.
I mean...
But our way always, I feel like anytime I try to do something my way, it usually doesn't end up very fruitful.
What's extraordinary, or
maybe the fruit that has the flies.
The flies buzzing around it gets
but
all
not
fast.
the really good, the good fruit.
Yeah. I think one of the things that's amazed me over the years is what we actually can do. What we can accomplish in serving in our own strength. Yeah. I mean, even in love with Jesus, going to church on Sundays, but not really submitted and surrendered to his plan. We're really diligent in our 5-year plan. We can grind out a lot of things, and we can look at physical things around ourselves and feel really successful. Look at, but boy, when it's attached,
and we can even be wow, look what God's done, and in reality, sometimes it's what we've done. Yeah.
That's funny, because as soon as you said that, I remember sitting around a kitchen table. Our daughters were just little, maybe 10 and 9 or somewhere young, and they kind of got tired of praying over dinner every night, because they never really connected the dots. They looked at why does God get all of this praise when I see it come at all of your labor? Dad has to work, Dad gets the food, goes in the fridge, Mom prepares it, cooks it, and we put it on the table, and we thank God for it. Our lives sometimes can feel like that. When we forget that tomatoes don't just grow in a can, in a grocery store aisle. Somebody somewhere had to plant seeds and trust that God was going to grow and cultivate that. Our lives can feel, we can look at the things in our lives and thank God for them, but also know how big of a role we played in doing it, right? We picked the right school, we met the right friend, we said yes to the right opportunity. So then, okay, so we're talking a lot about kind of that feeling. So what does it actually look like to be surrendered? Because there's this position of our mouth, right? We can read the scripture and say, oh God, I surrender this to you, or I give it. I don't want to just go with the flow. I want, as Moses said, I want God to go before me. I want to follow him into whatever life he has purposed for you. What does that experience feel like, look like?
And do you see that stack of papers? Ben, will you hand me that stack of papers? That's a good, I want to show you something that was literally in my thing today. The one underneath my Bible.
The big stack?
Yeah, that stack.
The 1, 2, 3?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So today, this was at the start of our Bible study, which, guys, if you're not in a Bible study, you can, I know COVID is happening right now, but you can still do it online. I just jumped in one today with a group of girls, and it's such a lifeline. So, okay. It's so funny that you asked that, because I literally just circled this today. You can see that I circled it. So in 1 John 2:5, it says, but whoever obeys his word, truly in this person, the love of God has been perfected. By this, we know that we are in him. So when you're how do you know that you're surrendered? How do you know that you're in him? It's pretty plain that if you're obeying his word. And I think that the difficulty can be, well, first you have to know his word so that you know that you're obeying it. And then second, I think it goes again back to whether or not we want to obey it, because our natural tendency can have tension with God's natural tendency, right? Because his ways aren't our ways always. And in a situation where I might want to be bitter or angry or frustrated or whatever, he's calling me to forgiveness and peace. And so I think that's a blatant answer. That one hit me this morning, and which is why I circled it, because I was okay, I want to be in him. How do I know? Always. And that's man, obeying his word.
Obeying
it's
his
kind
word.
of
Yeah.
It's kind of a kick to the face a little bit.
I would, in our young years, like anyone, I'd fall on my knees asking God to bless me, not even certain what that meant. Obviously, we do tie physical things of this world into blessing. And I just remember getting schooled in a Bible study young. I don't know, it was in the early years. And God just said, if you want to be blessed, have children. And I remember just thinking that's like the opposite of blessing when you're attaching it to things, because to have more kids is kind of like signing off on having less things, or at least having to share them and broken things. So, but I remember taking that to heart and being like,
we did clearly.
I'm on my knees asking the creator of this universe to bless me. And here I'm reading a scripture that says the greatest blessing he can give me this side of heaven is children. And I just remember coming to you and saying, hey, I don't, we're not gonna, we're gonna take
them as God gives them.
Take, and
So on that topic,
yes,
do you want to have
another one?
No.
If God wills
yes.
it,
Okay.
he would have to.
If he wills it.
He would have to
Make
jump
miracles?
a bridge.
Hey, we could adopt again.
You'd have to jump a bridge in a broken road.
Ben, don't you think we should adopt again?
No.
Careful, because Callista's gonna get mad at you. She says no.
All right, so really, I want to end on that, and then we'll get to the next thing
It's
here.
bothering me that your coffee and mine aren't at the same level.
Oh, there you go. Does that look nice now? Do you want to show them again? Oh, we're about equal too. We've been nervously drinking.
I'm not nervously. I'm just headachely.
Okay.
I have a coffee problem, so if I don't drink it, I'll get a headache.
On your topic of obedience. So, I was in a men's study, and just so you guys know, I'm not smooth with words. I grew up, in those formative years of learning language, correct tone, politeness, some of that stuff went out the window. I've tried to get better with it over the years, but I kind of have this guy that I should probably call and ask for forgiveness. But before I do that, I'm first going to share the story with you. So we're sitting in a men's group, and the men's group is all about kind of obedience and the Word of God. And however the topic came up, the guy just he sat back and he crossed his arms and he just goes, well, I pray every night. If God wants me to do something, he just needs to tell me. He could smack me upside the head with a 2x4. I'd do whatever God asked me to do. And I just remember in that moment, like that's kind of our approach often, is like we want to hear God speak something to us. And I don't remember what pastor said it. He said, if you want to hear the audible voice of God, then
Read
you need
your
to,
Bible?
well, then you need to play it. You need to play it over your, like an audio Bible over your speakers, because the book itself is riddled with things that we're supposed to be obeying.
Yeah.
And the first, he says, our everything that even begins all these things starts with faith, which is this idea that God, we understand and recognize him from a position that his promises are perfect and his will for us is perfect, and that somehow, some way, whether we know what will happen on the other side of it, whether we know what will happen to our job, our house, our marriage, our promotions, our dreams, whatever it is, our kids, we have to trust and step in obedience towards those things. And it's,
so why do you have to apologize to him?
well, because I think,
did you give a snarky remark?
Yeah, I did.
Joseph?
After he said that, I said, well, how well are you doing with all of the commands God's given you in the Bible?
Ouch.
And he kind of just sat back. And
yeah, you should probably apologize. I mean, it's a good challenge.
It was.
But...
The reason why I'd apologize because it probably came from some pride. Like I actually thought I was
doing so well
following
at it.
all of the commands or something. Not that I did, but it's certainly the sincerity of my heart.
Yeah.
But I fail at it all the time too. All right, so let's transition. Did you want to add something to that one?
Well, I was just gonna say, I think like one of my hopes for like if we're gonna continue to do videos is just that also like this would be a place of that kind of transparency. Like I think a lot of times people can like look up to or elevate or make bigger than we really are. People that are in ministry, people that are in a place of leadership, people that are in a place of having people that pay attention to what they're saying, whatever. And I'm guilty of it too. I mean, there's been times where I've had to apologize to pastors and be like, oh my goodness, I'm sorry that I expected you to be more than human,
Absolutely.
And so I think that for us, having kids that have grown up in ministry and grown up in our family, I think like we've always done a pretty good job of kind of protecting them in the sense of telling them like, hey, like, yeah, you're a Rogalski. Yeah, your parents are, in leadership and whatever roles, but that doesn't mean that you can't mess up. That doesn't mean that you have to be anything other than human being, how God created you. And I think for us, like, we've always been like very honest about things that we've struggled with, or things that we've had bad attitudes about, or, you know, there's been times where I've like posted a stance on something and then somebody's messaged me and I'm like, oh man, I do kind of see that. Like, you know, and so I feel like, you know, I get better about things that I post or don't post, especially right now. We could all probably post a whole lot less, but I guess my hope too is, like, if we're going to keep doing this, I think for us, you know, returning from Haiti and just going through a lot of things that we've been going through personally, I've just had this like really like strong like sense that like God wants us to help equip other families, like as he's equipping our family and as he's preparing us and has used a lot of the circumstances and the things that we've done and gone through to prepare our family for like where we are right now. We also know like there's more to come. There's probably a lot more joy and also a lot more heartache, and that's just the reality of the world. And so I think for me and Joe, like, we've talked so much about just wanting to be like a resource for people that are real, people that want to say like, hey, like, I'm going through this, or I'm spitting, or I said something really stupid, or I did this, or I did that, and like just a place to,
or my marriage is broken,
or yeah, like don't
know what to do with this kid, or
all of those things. And I just think like in the church, you know, we can say like we want to live upstream, but that can be really difficult to do, because in the church
it's tiring.
One, it's tiring, and two, it doesn't, like, life on mission and life like trying to constantly live surrender to God, that doesn't mean that you're going to do it perfectly well. And I think that unfortunately the church can be sometimes not a very safe place for people to stumble and people to learn how to live like purposefully and live surrendered to Jesus. And so I guess my hope for this would just be that people would see us as like an open and honest and transparent and like safe place to say, hey, like, wow, like they're going through this, or they're going through that, or they messed up in this way, or they, you know,
right,
they believe this or whatever, that it will help you to want to dig in and learn more what the word says, but that also you would feel like, oh man, I have somebody that I can talk to. And obviously, like, you know, we're only two people. We can't talk to every single person that might need us.
That's why you do things on video. There's millions of people out there.
So I suppose, like, with that said, like, our vision for kind of doing this is that it will a lot of times be us, but that sometimes we'll bring in either one of our kids or a friend, you know, just different things and different topics. So if there's certain things that you have questions about as it pertains to like living life on mission, and when we say on mission, that doesn't mean...
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay, then I'll let you get it.
Well, you segued it. You segued it beautiful. So let's just put a lid on what we were talking about, and I believe through our conversation, living upstream first starts with submittance and surrender to a God that we entrust has a bigger and better plan. Bigger and better plan for our lives than
bigger
we
and
do.
better.
Like it just
bigter, not bitter.
Yeah.
Bigter. Bigger and better.
Bigter.
Yeah.
But it really is that. You just at someday you just have to say, okay, even with all that I have, gifts, talents, otherwise, I can set my course, but I don't want to set it in light of missing what God had originally planned for my life. So submittance and surrender to that. So we're talking about Upstream, kind of like what it is and a little bit of the why. The other part I wanted to talk about was what you were saying. We get these names associated to us, right? You know, if you're on a stage and you're preaching, you're a pastor. If you're taking care of people, you're a pastor. If you go overseas for any reason whatsoever, you're a missionary. So you and I have always struggled with that word, not because it has any negative connotation, but when God says he is faithful, to who is faithful with a little, he gives much. Our missionary experience started with anybody we ever encounter. Like, I've always told friends, like, I'm kind of a boring friend because I don't have a ton to talk about other than Jesus. You know, like, I love hunting, I love fishing, I love sports, but I'm not in tune to it enough to really talk about it. At some point, if we're going to have deep, good conversations, get to know each other, at a real point, like, let's talk about being husbands, wives, and serving the Lord. So what does living a life on mission mean to you?
I think it just means on purpose, like purposeful, like you, like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of rehashing some of the stuff that we've already said. Yeah. But I just think like I think people think when they think on mission, it means like missionary or mission. You got to go to another country. I think on mission means like with strategy, with purpose, with like, this is the end goal. And for us, like the end goal is eternity and glorifying God and all those lovely things. So I think it just means like,
I think it's
strategy,
it's the
and
intention,
purpose.
The intentional part, and that gets wrapped in this maybe stories and testimonies for the future. But for me, God says that He's placed eternity in the heart of all men. I remember when I first read that, I remember it gave me such a kind of a boost to realize that no matter who I encounter, they at some point in their lives, maybe they've dealt with it and put it aside or put it in the closet or named it something. But at some point in their life, they looked up and said, what is the purpose to life? Like, why am I here? That sense of living beyond this life is important to people. And for me, that's always just given me permission to say, I bet you when I don't see you at church or when I don't see you at the gym or in your spotlight, you probably lay your head down at night just like I do, feeling bad about things that you've done or haven't done or just wonder where your position is with God. So like we have that permission. When I think about living on mission, is to like encourage each other, speak life into each other, point people to Christ if they don't know it, and then that actually becomes the real value of our relationship.
Yeah, for
sure. You know, I mean, we love our kids. I mean, that is kind of a hard thing not to love your kids. But how do you love your kids and not like work and strive to keep them on track with pursuing the Lord, obeying the Lord, like trusting in Him? What experiences have they had in their life to trust Him when everything around them is physical and visible? Like it's hard to know who God is when you're surrounded by man-made things. So even being missional with your kids, and sometimes that looks like a 1-hour coffee date where you bust out a Bible. Sometimes it's just like sharing with them that you really screwed up and asking for forgiveness, or working out with them with intentionality, or showing them how to cook in a kitchen. Like it's intentional, purposeful living that goes beyond just self and saying, I'm putting this into this relationship. I'm putting this into this moment that God has had me meet this person. And it can't always, sometimes you just meet someone and you say, hey, I don't always wear sweatshop clothes. And you don't get an opportunity.
I'm going to have to find that lady. How embarrassing, you guys.
But so missional living for me, when we decided to move to Haiti, like I didn't feel any more missional than I've ever felt in my life, other than that's just where we wanted to live because of the pace of life and different things. But you're on mission everywhere you go, not just when you walk outside your home. It's being intentional with yourself. Whatever you're pouring into yourself gives you the ability to pour into others, and so on and so forth. So I guess that really encapsulates Upstream. I think where we wanted to close on this was, what is the alternative? We've spoken about, there are days where it's like you just want to throw in the towel. Like you look across the street and you see the guy that may or may not be living intentionally for the sake of others and for the sake of like leaving behind a generation of believers, or whatever it is. He might just be motivated by, this is my one life. I'm going to live it to the fullest. I'm going to work hard so that I can, have toys or whatever it is, enjoy the moments that he has. And sometimes you just want to throw in the towel and you just say, yeah, that looks so much easier than carrying the injustices of the world around, or like mourning over the evil and the terrible things that are in the world. So when you and I were talking about this before, we were saying that it's Upstream with no plan B. Like that was kind of our how we wanted to close this thing, was saying to truly live Upstream is to also just not look back. It's this idea that you can't live life with expectations, because the second you live them with expectations, you're kind of the author of your own story. The world will throw you curveballs. And in the midst of the curveballs or striking out or failures or whatever, do you then just say, okay, it's just time to go with the flow? Or like, how do you get yourself to a place where there's no plan B? Like, you just push through.
I mean, I think like if we're just honest with ourselves and we can look at our own life and look at the situations, which are probably many for all of us, in which we didn't do the upstream thing, in which we didn't live purposefully or we chose our own way, I think that we can compare those things to the times that we are fully surrendered to God and we are fully saying like, okay, God, like not my will, but yours. I think that we could see a clear difference in those things. I know that I for sure can. And so for me, it's like, I don't actually want the other way. Like I've seen that the other way can produce a lot of negative things in my life. And so I think realizing like there's not an alternative because that's just like not what I actually even want for my life. And sure, like, are there moments where you're like, yeah, that life over there looks really nice. And mine, like, why does it seem like the harder I go after God, the harder the enemy comes after me? Like, that's just reality. And so I just think like, and I think that's why, like, and this another thing that was in my study today is just like, why like testimony is so important too, and just being reminded of like what God can do, what he has done, what he's able to do. It just helps you in those moments where you don't necessarily feel like going upstream, and we've had plenty. And I think it's also really important why it's good to have people around you and to have other believers that are like able to just be real and be able to say like, yeah, man, that I went through this and it was really hard, like, but God's faithful, or, you know, sending you an encouraging scripture. Or I know for me, like the times that I've had that are the absolute hardest, I thank God so much for my friends that are believers, my friends that like actually also live intentionally and on mission and upstream, and that like speak those like words of encouragement and life back into me, because God knows I need it sometimes for sure.
Right on. Yeah, for me there's no plan B, because I've tasted enough of the other, like the opposite of living surrendered to God and submission to his commands and trusting and believing in his promises is to live for self. You know, I mean, and living for self doesn't have to be negative. Like I said, it can produce beautiful things. But when you live for self, like I remember even as a kid, you know, growing up, you know, with not a lot of money, with young parents, coveting, you know, everything that my friends had or classmates had, and then going and working, sweating all summer long, you know, to go get the Reebok pumps that everybody had that my parents couldn't afford, and then having to walk home in the rain and seeing an entire summer's worth of work in a pair of shoes that now stunk and I didn't really want to wear anymore. Like, you just keep going through more and more experiences like this. Like, God gives us enough experiences in life to choose which one is really valuable to us. You know, I mean, you grow up. It's like, okay, I worked really, really hard to buy this car. Well, that car becomes worth half what it was the next year. Kids beg. You know, their life would just be better if the Christmas tree was full of presents. And as they rip through them, they're almost dizzied by the end of it, having never been able to take the moment to be thankful or to even equate what they got.
That can happen.
Where somehow, some way, even in the midst of horrible circumstances that this world can throw us. I mean, you have friends that have, you know, lost husbands this year. We constantly are hearing about, you know, different sicknesses that fall to children, like terrible things. And you ask yourself, what weathers those storms? What gets people through that? And it seems to be the invaluable things of God. That somehow, some way in obeying him, that we can feel his peace, we can feel his love. We can be proud of having a gift of long suffering, because he says that it produces endurance for the next trial. Like, it's like you get through one trial and the next trial just comes. So yeah, for me, the plan B is just like trying.
I don't want the plan B.
Trying to indulge yourself off cotton candy. Like, it might taste good for a second. It might scratch the itch of the sweet tooth, but eventually it's just going to leave you sick and unhealthy and unnourished. So yeah, I mean, we'll get to it at some point. I'm guessing different testimonies, different people that will sit in these chairs and go through these interviews with us. We'll have tons of stories to share, but really, God says, choose this day whom you will serve, for no one lives a free life. you're either a sin to slave or a slave to righteousness.
A sin to slave?
A sin to slave.
A slave to sin.
You're a slave to righteousness.
Joe.
So it's like, whatever.
You said a sin to slave. A slave to sin or a slave to righteousness.
You're either a slave to sin or a slave to righteousness. So it's kind of just begs the saying, choose whom you will serve. And in serving God, have I let myself down in it? Has it felt like God has never let me down, but there's times where he's like, man, you could have given me supernatural protection. And that supernatural protection wasn't there. So then what do you do? Like, what do you do with what's remaining? Like,
that's a whole other topic for another day, babe.
Trust him enough to pick up the broken pieces, as his word says. That's
we'll
what
talk about those on another one.
Obedience. So guys, Upstream TV at Upstream International.
Why are you yelling?
I'm yelling because I don't have a microphone close to my face. No. So Upstream International. How do you do this YouTube thing? You say like, subscribe,
tell us, Ben.
comment,
no,
click
tell us,
below,
Ben.
check us out.
Let Ben tell us.
You got to do the down thing and then the side thing, and then there's fun little blooper things that pop up.
What's your favorite coffee, guys?
Yes.
Let me know.
Let us know your favorite coffee
and let us know
in
what
the
things you
comments.
want to talk about, what things you want to hear about. People ask us a lot of questions over the years about different things that we've done or experienced, or raising kids, or I don't know, a million other things. But we'd love to talk about things that you guys are interested in. So
comment,
do this.
click,
this is what Ben and Calista do.
Anyways, that was fun. Thank you guys. And obviously you're talking to Joe and Sammy, so you're going to hear anything and everything that pertains to our lives, life in general, and living upstream.
And a lot of stupid things that we say and do.
Stupid things. Those are the funny parts. If you ever think we got it all going on, Ben will be sure to show you blooper reels at some point. So.
I don't know if we had any bloopers today, babe.
Maybe
it was
not.
Perfect.
Not Beam.
Okay.
Are you getting all the hairs off of me?
I don't know where you picked up. It's like you shaved.
I shaved these little ones.
Okay, I asked you earlier if you shaved with your shirt on, and you said no.
I don't remember if I shaved with my shirt on.
You clearly did, because you have little baby hairs all over you.
I got out of the shower and oh!
Wait.
This is...
Can they let me show my coffee before I drink too much? This is the difference between Joe and I.
A man and a woman.
You're an idiot.